I'm excited to get on air. Caspar,
What's going on, Chris?
how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I am doing very good. I'm excited with this particular IG Live. I did one the other day, and your screen on my phone was blank. So I actually had to pull up another thing. Like it was a little bit of a disaster, but I'm glad we're connected. Hopefully we'll get some people started here. We got, I guess, 8 people, 9 people. Anybody who's tuning in, go ahead and share where you're from, and we're gonna jump in here here pretty short. Do you have any quick announcements before we get started, Caspar?
None,
No.
none. I am enjoying. My announcement is I am enjoying and loving life, and yeah, that's my only announcement for today.
That is awesome. I just got back. I went to New Jersey for a graduation, a nephew graduation, so that was good. The niece from the same family graduated high school 2 years ago. It was freezing and raining, and then this year it was actually like 3 degrees warmer than Houston, and we were out. It was an outdoor ceremony, so it was I don't know. It was hot. It was extremely
You
hot.
can't win with weather usually, right? Like you complain when it's cold, you complain when it's hot. You just gotta be appreciative of whatever you get.
All right, so those of you who are tuning in, go ahead and wave and let us know where you're tuning in from. Here's the reason we put this live together. It was back in November 17th that I interviewed Caspar for my longevity summit, and that's Uncovering the Secrets of Longevity, Live Beyond the Norms. I interviewed Caspar and 54 other experts. Turned out to be an amazing event, got a lot of amazing data. We decided to release those interviews onto a podcast, and the podcast is called Live Beyond the Norms. And that's a kind of a tagline in the name of the podcast. That podcast started last Thursday. Maybe it was a Thursday before, but started we'll go with last Thursday, and no, Thursday before last, and has already hit number 6 on Apple's new alternative health podcast. Really excited about that. And so wanted to connect with Caspar. We're going to give away, his podcast is live. You can check it out. By the way, Caspar, just to share with you, yours has been downloaded the most. So far, the most popular of the podcast episodes.
That is amazing to hear. I am very, very thankful for everyone for listening. I hope they got something out of it. I hope they get something out of this too. I know you do great work, Chris, so
thank you. Here. And just to share, that puts you above in terms of episodes downloaded, above Dr. Stephen Gundry, above Dr. Greenfield, and above Dave Asprey. So, and a number of...
I'm going to put that in my bio, actually. That is going up. That's my new bio on IG, and it's my claim to fame. I could retire now. I'm good.
That's pretty awesome. All right, so I think I titled this something like "Be a Maverick When It Comes to Your Health." This particular IG live, and being a maverick is something that you do, is that you think about, is that you talk about. When people kind of go subscribe, and actually I'll need to type in here while you're talking a little bit, I'll get things prepared so I can add some links. But when you're talking about the Maverick mindset, what are you talking about, obviously, as it relates to health?
Well, I think, like it's in the title right there, like beyond the norms, like don't be normal. Normal these days is sick, is depressed, is just not living a fulfilled life. That's unfortunately what we've gotten to. So we want to break free of being normal. You want to be yourself and unique, but also in this state, being just at a base level of health is above average. You are already a maverick. You're already in like the top 10% of the world if you don't have a chronic disease, if you're happy, if you wake up without needing to run to coffee and kind of, lean on sleeping pills when you go to sleep. Those kind of things are already a maverick mindset. And I think the constant pursuit of trying to find what is best for your health, because we all follow influencers out there, the Dave Aspreys, the Ben Greenfields, give amazing advice. But in the end, we need to experience it. And that takes also a maverick mindset to go out there, experience things that are outside of the norm, and then apply it to ourselves and figure ourselves out. And all of that is already in the unique. Everyone wants to be told what to do and follow a very strict protocol to live long. There is no singular way for you as an individual to live long by listening to one person following exactly in their footsteps. That's not how it works. You take, you pull, you bring it together, and that is how you get to live long and happy. And that truly is like the Maverick mindset is go against the grain of what everyone is doing. It's like the investor mindset. I have a financial background. I worked in Wall Street before. It's like, if everyone's looking this way and saying this, do the opposite, right? Go the other way. That's how you make the money. And that's how you're investing. The Mavericks get money that way as well. So if there's one thing that's more important, way more important than money, it's your health, right? We know that. So I think to have that kind of independent, unique mindset that goes against the grain of what you probably hear in the mainstream media every day, that's what you need. And you need to have that kind of really open-minded perspective of the world to embrace that and live a long, healthy life.
Yeah, there has to be. I mean, so the concept of going, bucking the norm, going against the norm, maybe fits very naturally in so many areas, right? I think when it comes to healthcare, that's where people really get nervous. And I think like you're in charge of a practice. I think you're doing some amazing things in California. I think you're like opening some stuff up. I don't know if you want to talk about that as kind of a preface to answering this question. But what are some examples that you might have of where the norm would have sent somebody down one path and actually they needed a Maverick mindset so that they went down a path that was very different and maybe even counter, so that people have this understanding. There are situations where you really do need to have this Maverick mindset and kind of buck the norms of traditional medicine.
So I have a perfect example, Chris, because I was just speaking to my friend. He will remain nameless for this, but he's a longtime friend that's had back issues, followed the conventional route. And he knows me, and he asked my opinion, but the doctor scared him into being like, hey, you have to take these painkillers, you got to have back surgery, and you got to do just physical therapy, and that's it afterwards. And he went down that route. Helped for a little bit, back pain got worse. He's now in a worse situation. He's trying to deal with it somehow. He's going to neurologists, all these people. They're saying we need another, fusion surgery of some sort, very invasive. You'll probably be on Oxycontin, all these things for years to come with the pain. And so they're dealing in a fear-based mindset of these are my solution. Everything's a hammer sort of thing. Your toolkit is a little bit, limited. So his whole, idea of what the solution was incredibly limited. He was making decisions out of fear, which you should never do. And so that, norm of, you speak to your doctor, you listen to your doctor, you take their advice. They're very educated. They went through so much schooling. All of this is true. And I respect doctors. I'm not knocking. My father's one. A lot of my friends are trained conventional doctors. So, but if he took a different approach, if he started, let's say, with going into some sort of manipulation, some sort of anti-inflammatory protocol with nutrients, with diet, with lifestyle changes, with supplementations, IVs, there's all types of different laser therapies we could use for pain, light therapy, so many different things down the line, where at the end you could turn to pharmacological or surgical intervention. That would have been, I know it because I've seen it many times. Unfortunately, the day and age we live in, we start with the big stuff. We go surgery, pharmacological, and then we start to say, wait a second, that didn't work. Let me work backwards now and seek out something unique and different and Maverick-like, right? Integrative, holistic medicine, chiropractic, acupuncture, all these different things. Suddenly then they become these options after this has progressed quite a bit, and now you're in serious pain, and the doctors are kind of like, we're out. We could do another surgery, I guess. And this is what I told them. Medicine of today, everyone thinks it's a very precise science. It's a science of guesswork. It really is. They're looking at his results, and two neurologists are saying completely different things, saying, I guess we could do this. I guess this is what I've seen in some people. Some people are not him. They're not you, right? You can't say, his unique circumstances are so different than everyone else. And I do say that, sometimes maybe look at emotions. They store in the back, right?
Mm.
You read lots of books, John Sarnock's book about it, and all these things that are these other solutions, others ways, but you absolutely have to have a mindset of, I'm not going to follow the norm. I'm not just going to listen to the doctor because I'm supposed to. And it's not to say that I'm going to disregard. I will take his information, but other information, and then I will make a decision. But I think if you really break it down, the decision should be, well, let me start with this. Let me start with something that's a little bit less invasive and
Mm.
try and see if that works and really feel it out that way. And I know this because I've seen it a lot. Those that start with a Maverick mindset when they go into any condition or a goal to improve their health end up better than those that just follow the norm.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple things to unpack, right? So one, it feels like a lot of conventional medicine, because it's geared so late in kind of the healing process, is like the nuclear weapon, right? So let's go nuclear option. Let's try the surgery, and then that has the potential of causing damage that you can't undo, like doing things that are really tough to undo. And so you want to approach that from, okay, well let's not go nuclear. Like let's fire some spitballs at this thing and see if we can get some results. I remember one time I had a soccer ball kicked against my ear, and it burst the membrane between the ear, right? So I could actually blow air out of my ear. And the first physician I went to was like, hey, he was an ear, nose, and throat and plastic surgery guy. He's like, so we can pull your ear back and we can put some skin in there and we can do this. And I was like, when I was a child, I had tubes in my ears to drain them. And that tube is the same, like air could be blown out. And for most of my life, I haven't it healed.
Yep.
Why don't we give it a little while and see if it heals? And sure enough, it did on its own. The other thing is you're talking about, they're taking guesses, right? So the different physicians are taking guesses, and I'm with you, like very educated. They just have this breadth of knowledge, and frankly, they probably get it right a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You just got to be careful, because when they get it wrong, they've gone nuclear often, and there's no way to go back to spitballs. That's probably the worst analogy of kind of integrative medicine ever. But even with those guesses, they're coming at those guesses with I have a hammer, so it has to be a nail solution, right? So they each have their specialty, and they're like, that plastic surgeon is going to be like, I'm going to do it this way. Somebody else might have tried something nuclear that was very different. So I think that's it's important to realize that as learned as they are, there are kind of blinders on them sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing, Chris, is that a lot of these hammers are very nicely packaged. We've gone into turning them into very technology driven. You have all these different tests and all these different outputs coming at you, and so much more information now than we used to have that's based. But that information could be contradictory. It could be downstream. It could be something, we'll look at it. It's sort of like taxes. All this information, you give your set of documents to one accountant, they'll come up with something totally different than the next accountant. Yet we're talking about math and numbers, like we shouldn't be coming up with drastically different things, but we are. And medicine is very much like that in many ways. It's a educated guess, educated of course, but it is still a guess. And the more information and inputs you add, and that glitziness of the hammer itself, so many more drugs and new drugs and combinations, but then the more room for error there is, and the less idea personalization really goes, because everyone's based on diagnosis and protocol, and the protocols could change over time, but they're still based on a subset of a generalized blanket approach. You have this is what we do. Okay, maybe the next doctor's like, well, mine's a little different, but it's still a protocol that's for the diagnosis, not a treatment plan. That's what we call programs of treatment that is individualized and personalized based on probably less information, but really the main marking information that gives you the most is most upstream, I would say, rather than downstream where it's already diluted.
There's I'm preparing. I'm about to interview. I think you might have interviewed him, Dr. Lufkin. Lies I Taught in Medical School. Happy to introduce you. So his book is Lies I Taught in Medical School. Literally a medical school professor, and he was diagnosed with kind of 4 chronic diseases of aging. And they were like, "You're going to be on medication the rest of your life," and he was like, "No." like there's got to be a better way, and ultimately solved it. And I just finished this book, and like I mentioned, I'm about to interview him. I think that's a great example of, you got to even the doctors, like when he became a Maverick, he actually was able to solve solutions and do things that the physicians said were not possible. I also think of Dr. Stephen Gundry. I interviewed him for the longevity for the podcast Live Beyond the Norms, and his whole story is, he was a former practicing pediatric thoracic heart surgeon, right? So that's a guy who does heart surgeries on children, right? What an amazing career. He was actually in charge of different, pediatric heart surgery departments, and then kind of woke up because of his experience and was like, actually, there's a better way. Like I can start addressing these heart challenges, these physiological challenges, before we get to surgery, and really, like, I love this aspect of the story. Like, that's a career you usually never leave, right?
Yeah.
Practicing pediatric thoracic heart surgeon, and and the leader of, I think, Loma Linda University, that heart surgery department, and then it just has this awakening moment where, hey, I can solve all these things some other way, and then shifts his entire career. So those are good examples of that Maverick mindset. It's interesting, in the interview it came out that it took a while, right? Like he kind of had all the information that he needed to know that was a better way, but still you're in this path, you're in this rut, and then it took a while for him to come out of that. I think that's pretty exciting. Talk a little bit about, because I know we talked about this kind of just make it a teaser of kind of how you got into this, how you got into kind of looking at holistic health, being a Maverick, looking at the holistic health revolution.
Yeah, I will say I was born into this, right? There's no hero's journey of like, oh my goodness, I had this disease, I had to find the solution. And I speak to those people all the time, and that's an amazing hero's journey. But my hero's journey was basically one of exploration through being born into a family that had 2 doctors that came from Europe, immigrated here in the 70s to kind of leave a communistic nation in Poland that was, in USSR basically driven, and restart their life here. But at the same time, my father always had this, and my mother had this, always curiosity. What else is out there? We learned they were conventionally trained, and they learned everything, but my father always said there was a certain disappointment, frustration with his patients, that he only had that hammer to give them. And so they were coming in, he's saying, well, I don't know what else to do for you, and I do acknowledge you're getting worse, but if my hammer is not working, what am I to do? And that's when he started to go, well, what else is out there? And so he took on that Maverick mindset at that point. And it's something I thought, Chris, in my early years, every doctor just traveled the world, took their kids around, went to China to learn acupuncture, went to Oxford University to learn about PENF and low-level laser therapy, just kept traveling. And I was blessed to be able to experience a very different type of world. It wasn't just, where I was in the United States and small town suburban New York. It was seeing what else is out there, and how do people live? How do they apply things? And how do they live healthier than a lot of westernized places? You look at how much we spend on healthcare, look at how developed we are, and where we are on that list of like how healthy we are. And there are like basically third world countries above us ticking up now. And it's really sad. And it goes to show how screwed up the healthcare system is. But that's something I only recognized later in life, when I started to really visualize and see what's going on in healthcare outside of my bubble with my father. But that's where I also saw there's a huge opportunity to help. I went to business school. I understood the ins and outs of sort of what it takes to run a business in some ways. Doctors don't know that, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't have to worry about bureaucracy. They shouldn't have to worry about, how to market things, or, accounting and HR and all these different departments of business needs. But they should have to focus on the patient and be always in the constant pursuit to find what is better for their patients, how they can improve the results Because honestly, like I said, we're down here on this list, and we got more and more people dealing with complex chronic conditions, and they're happening earlier and earlier. That means a lifetime of suffering, constant medication, surgery, more medication, that conventional approach. So by having my father and mother take me around the world and then witnessing patient after patient, and once I started getting involved in this in my 20s and really being around the patient population, more doctors that were in the integrative field, you start to hear a different story where healing isn't just, oh yeah, I don't have symptoms anymore, this is great. It's, I have a whole new life. I have my health back. They told me I would have this chronic disease that is incurable forever. And I just accepted it. But then I saw another path. I became a maverick. I thought differently. I came into this with an open mind, not even knowing what the hell is integrative alternative holistic medicine. And what are you doing with all this energy, these lights, these, different machines that I've never seen and conventional medicine doesn't use. And they improved. So it was through the experience of their own, through being a maverick, I got to hear that. And I said, wow, we got to share this more. Because if there's anything that gives people hope that are on that plane of, oh, this is incurable and I'll never get better, it's hearing someone else tell their story. Not a chart, not a study, double-blind placebo. Those are great too, don't get me wrong. I love evidence, but if evidence was everything, then we'd all be healthy by now. We have tons of evidence. But it's the experience that I saw that drove others to embrace this and become maverick again, open mind, seek something different out and actually get better. So my story was really one of I say, of an observer. I'm not an expert in medicine or anything, but I've observed a hell of a lot out there in the world. I've talked to thousands of patients, doctors from all ends of the world. And what I've been able to do is, okay, what works here and what doesn't? And how can we start to bring this together? And how can I help other doctors and patients connect like that and allow the doctors to truly focus, again, on working with the patient, putting time, building a relationship, and then moving on to, like, how do you get more people to hear about this through things like this in your work?
Yeah. So it sounds like, because I've often thought about, first somebody chatted, Our Living Well Journey is their handle. I respect any doctor who is willing to look beyond conventional medicine. That is what we're talking about. That is not the norm. Obviously, we do too. Well, I really respect any doctor, right? Like, you just get somebody who's probably doing a better job, in our opinion, practicing when they're willing to look outside the box and kind of be their own mavericks. I really look at, as you go through life, you work with experts, but I usually tend to just want their expert opinion, and then I got to process that information myself and then deliver a result. It sounds like you have, and maybe talk a little bit, I put the link, innovativemedicine.com, in the notes. Talk a little bit about having access to a lot of experts so they can still stay in their niches, but really having a kind of more global and holistic view of this, and then maybe touch on whether it's still relevant or whatever. Last time when we actually first got to meet face to face, you were talking about some exciting stuff, I think, in California.
Yeah. So I'll first touch on that piece of understanding that when you have a number of different approaches, that's what I believe integrative medicine should be. Shouldn't be specializations that all kind of look at one thing in only one area of the body or one approach and say, this is the way for you. It's bringing everyone to the table, putting the patient in the middle, and being able to say, out of all these therapeutic approaches out there in the world, conventional to spiritual, how can we help you? How can we address your needs and root causes so that we bring you back to self-healing and sustainable health as we know it? And so that requires a bigger toolkit. And by going out into the world and seeing what's out there and taking some of it and trying, my father was very, methodical in this. He was very skeptical of a lot. He was conventionally trained, did surgery, did open heart surgeries, anesthesia, all these things that are very kind of, very orthodox. And so for him to go out, he had to really test these things and put it under the microscope with his patients and take that skeptical approach that you should. But by having that toolkit, it's the same thing as, going into a home these days and trying to repair it. If you only have a hammer, you're incredibly limited. If you have all the different types of things you may need and, new stuff and old stuff for the plumbing, for all this, you're in a much better place, whatever shows up that may be going on with this house, to fix it. And so your home is that house, and we have to approach it that way by bringing everyone to the table, not saying, no, that's wrong, acupuncturist, you don't get it because you don't understand the biochemistry here, or saying conventional medicine is wrong. We still look at it, we still appreciate it, but it's only a portion of the solution when you look at this whole integrative medicine spectrum of things. So that's the approach. We have over 100 different types of therapies. Everyone here is kind of trained in their own ways to a lot, but there's specializations also. I think my father would say European biological energy medicine. He's really gone down that route after conventional. But we have, nurse practitioners here that are more regenerative type things. We have stem cell experts, all of this. So that's the great part of it, is that it's almost a one-stop shop, where you really have so many things there. Again, it's the gym that has all the different ones, not just one, rack for benching, and that's it. And then you're going to leave there with chicken legs because you need the squat rack too. So it's the gym approach. It's the one-stop shop approach. And yeah, so we've been, my father's been in practice for, over 40, 50 years now. But we've done things at this center for about 20 and seen really great results with people from around the world, again, with those complex chronic conditions. And then we saw the patterns going on of how they're getting better. Of course, there's personalization, but there is some patterns. And we wanted to make that available to more people for the preventive and wellness side, not just wait till you're really sick. We know there's a large population. We want to help them, but I think it's better that you never suffer, that you never get into disease, that you be proactive. And how do you do that? Is we're looking to open another center, which is progressing now in Los Angeles as proof of concept that if you're using it on the toughest case in the world, why can't we apply the same approach, tools, personalization in some ways, and use that to prevent and optimize your wellness? And so that's what we're doing in Los Angeles with doctors as well, and the whole team, to now bring this to a larger audience, a larger number of people that hopefully do not have to come to our New York offices with a very complex condition, but feel great, live long, are optimizing your health, getting ahead of the curve of where most people are going now, which is they believe they will be in a disease state as they age. That's almost the consensus and norm of things. Again, we want to live beyond the norm and go into a place of living long, healthy, and happy. Absolutely doable, and that's what we're focused on in LA. Super excited about to open that and continue on from there.
I was thinking just this morning, you have these moments where you're like, hey, of somewhat clarity. In that longevity summit, again, all of those interviews are going to come out on the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. In that longevity summit, I asked everyone, including you, how long do you think people can live, and how long will people, and how long do you want to live, right? So people and then you. It probably won't surprise you, only 3 people gave the same number, which is telling, I think, about the expectation of health span versus lifespan. And I think a lot of us in alternative health, in biohacking, really what we're trying to do is, one, we'd like to live longer, right? Like the guy who created the word biohacking, his goal is 180, or although his answer was extremely esoteric in that interview, extremely, like go into a cave and then leave my body and then tour the universe.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. But I was just thinking this morning is really there's almost a symbol of like health span, when you want your health span to equal your lifespan, right? And the best analogy that I have come across is like a life that's like a candle, right?
Yep.
Because that candle burns perfectly well until the last, 0.01%. Like currently people are saying, or current stats say that we spend about 20% of our lives, the latter part of our lives, in some sort of decline that I think we would all like to avoid. And that idea of a candle and then that 0.01%, okay, yeah, it's a little rough, and then you're done and you've had just a fabulous life. So to get that health span to equal that lifespan is one of these goals. And then I liked your example. It's kind of like if you're trying to build a house with a hammer, well, your clinic, right, Innovative Medicine, I'll get the link back in the notes here, is about having the whole crew show up to the house, right? All of the specialties, and then to be able to do assessments and try things, right? There's still guessing going on, but it's guessing from a really broad breadth of expertise, so that maybe we need to get rid of the guessing example. I don't know.
There's less guessing with better information,
Yeah.
right? When you get, again, I call it upstream information because it's really going to the root. So really quick example, if you get your results back and you take a normal blood test and it's showing you low levels of magnesium, the common answer is take more magnesium, right? That would be a solution, you could say. But it's a guess as to why you have lower magnesium. You could ask questions and start to pry, but a lot of times the body, you don't know. If you knew, you'd already be addressing it yourself. So the questions could give someone a better picture, but you're still taking a guess. Whereas upstream, you're starting to understand, are there stressors that are causing the magnesium deficiency? Is there some kind of other element on the upstream? Because once you get downstream, that's already many processes have come, and yes, the magnesium deficient. But you can go upstream, literally tell if it is dietary, something else, emotional stress could be part of that, right? Infection you didn't know about, that wasn't really handled or couldn't, you can't run every single lab. But if you start to get to those on the upstream, it changes a little bit. But yes, it's always a little bit. But if you do better and better educated guessing, you'll get better and better answers as to why. Again, not what. Magnesium deficiency is what. Why is the real question you should be asking. That's why I don't like diagnoses. It's just telling me what. It's giving me a description of what you have. But why do you have it is so much more important.
Yeah. And you know what? I think I am 100% comfortable with guesses, because I my background is the science background, and you start with guesses. I think my apprehension is that, like, the general population doesn't necessarily think like scientists, and so a guess when it comes to medical care doesn't sound right. But you already made the point, like, the physician that you're going to is in fact guessing, right? Like, I think this is what's going to work, and then they find out at the end of it, and so be okay with that, and better to have somebody who's looking at things more holistically. And also, if you just think about how much time we understand that there's the interplay of different systems in our body. You're usually having, what's the typical doctor visit? 7.5 minutes? It's not 15.
It's ticked up recently, as I saw, almost 10 minutes. But yeah, it used to be 7 minutes. Yeah. But I feel like recently.
So let's just say 10 minutes with one specialty, without the other specialty in the room, right? That's where organizations like Innovative Medicine do a great job, because you've got somebody looking at the whole picture. So excellent. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to cover on this. I want to be respectful of your time. I put the link to Innovative Medicine up there. I put your CasparSchultz.com up there. Any other link you need me to kind of post out there?
No, I think that's good, Chris. I would like to just say, to go, like, backtrack on this idea of longevity and living the 180. Like, that's wonderful, and I applaud people like Brian Johnson for spending so much money and trying to,
I'm glad somebody is.
There's the other flip side of that, and I was talking about this with someone, is you don't want to just live long and live unhappily. You want to live happily too. If you are so restrictive in your diet and everything else that it's truly not bringing you happy, you can't find it. I don't see the point in it, right? I don't think that's healthy, number one, meaning I associate my levels of happiness with my health, and the other way around.
Yeah.
You can't take the two apart. Your health is part of that. Your mood, how you feel, is part of your health basis. So if you're unhappy, but you have a beautiful body and you're waking up and doing every single health factor there, but you're unhappy because maybe your purpose isn't what you are put here on earth to do, or you feel disconnected from people, or just as a whole, just not there, not on the right path, that's not health. And then longevity doesn't really matter. It's a trio. If you're healthy, then you're happy, then you'll live longer. So focus on that. Just do things that are healthy, but also that feel good. Don't listen to people and say, oh, the healthiest way is keto, but I'm unhappy just eating meat all the time. I don't feel right almost, even though most people will see results. In the beginning, at least, right? There's a change in your diet, you're going to see results. But I think there has to be this also ability for us to say, let's find things that are healthy, but find the joy in doing them too. Because if we're doing them without, and a great case is everyone that goes to the gym and just hates it. You know, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say, yeah, you find movement. Hiking is wonderful maybe for you. You want to be in nature, play a sport, do something else. Maybe go to the gym 15 minutes, but afterwards do something you love, playing piano or something else you love, right? Balance
Yeah,
it at least so you're not doing things you just constantly hate in the name of health.
yeah.
That is not healthy, right? So I just want to throw that out there. When we talk about longevity, let's do it in a way that truly brings us joy.
I, I like your idea of, okay, so make sure that you have something rewarding that is also healthy, right? Because you don't want to go to the gym and then reward yourself with a six-pack of beer
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. But have something that's rewarding if that's what it takes. What you're saying really has a great parallel to something that I've been talking about, which is that success, and in this case, success may be health, is often boring. Like the reality is, if you think about the success that Michael Phelps had, he swam that same 1,000-meter pool, whatever. I don't even know how big a pool is because I don't swim. But like he swam at the same pool at the same time in the same temperature, the same laps every day for decades, right? And part of that is, and I have 14-year-old twins, one boy, one girl, and I'm constantly talking to them. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like there are things that you're going to do in your life to achieve what you want to achieve in your life that you're not you're not going to enjoy. You got to figure out how to gamify it. If that's like you got to study and you don't like reading, well then you read for 15 minutes and make a game, do something fun and active, and then get back to it. Like you've got to figure out how to do these things. And I think there's some of that in health. I think there's a lot of options. I think when you really start listening to your body, you actually do feel a lot better. And then one last thing. The product that really got me into this market, right? ESS 60 is responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result in history. And I tell the story of this 90% extension of life. And I do get a lot of people who are like, why would we want to live longer? And the first piece of that we've already discussed, which is, well, Caspar, if you had the same mental capacity that you have today and you have the same physical capacity to have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And usually that shifts people. But when it doesn't, you got to start looking at, okay, where are you finding joy in your life? And one of the speakers that will be coming out on the Live Beyond the Norms podcast is a good friend of mine, Patrick Wanis, who really talks about the mental game behind being healthy, being happy, finding purpose, all of these things in your life, which I think are really important. And that's what that small percentage of people are missing. I don't know about you, but I love to come to work, right? I really don't see me retiring. I'm not even sure I'll work less. Like I just really love what I do, and maybe that'll shift. There's some kind of passion projects that'll have, but find that passion and joy. And if you haven't found it yet, like start tweaking your life so that you can. I always there was a phrase that I had: reinvent yourself as if you're going to live forever, because you might. Right, like that's where we're thinking. But anything to wrap us up here, Caspar?
I don't want to extend it too long, take up your time, but I will remark
Yeah,
one
go.
more thing.
I've got time. Just so you know.
This is a great conversation. I think this is like really beneficial. It's not in those like particles of little things that you could look at. What's the one thing here, or how do you boost NAD level? Like that's great too. But I find these type of philosophical bigger ones are the ones people struggle with the most.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have the particles they can pick out and choose for themselves and supplement all that. But it is that idea of being uncomfortable and getting to comfortable, right? And the idea that, wait, that doesn't make me happy. It doesn't mean that you won't face periods that are unhappy. To be happy, you have to experience sadness. There is no other way, right? That is the polarity of life. You can't have heat without cold. Otherwise, you'd never know like what cold is, and everything would be tepid for you. So, that idea of lean into the uncomfort, lean into the things that fear you, and happiness is on the other side of that as well. That's it. It's not that, wait a second, I feel really anxious jumping on this IG Live and I don't like it, right? Or something like
Yeah.
everyone experiences that. Even myself, like who talks to people all the time about this and does. Like I go into it like, oh man, like I gotta do this. But once I'm in it and done with it, it's like there is happiness
Yeah.
in it. There is this ability to connect with others and share your kind of what you feel is your purpose.
Yeah.
And so that is another part. I'm not saying be completely do everything that makes you happy, right? In an almost ego sense of I want to do this now, I want to do this. That's not real happiness. So define that. And I do believe what you said there, like truly understanding you and your intuition. Too often, I think we're losing that over time from generation to generation. Something I believe ancient civilizations really understood, the intuition, feeling when something ominous is going to happen or whether to make the right decision. How does this feel in my heart, not my head? You know, we think too much with this and we're constantly information. I'm seeing, notifications pop up right now because I didn't put my phone on do not disturb, but it's constantly like it's in there and everything. Whereas you got to make those decisions with your heart, but that takes some time, some peeling back, meditative practices, mindfulness, all of that. But then when you combine the two, like what makes me happy, understanding that there may be some pain and struggle to get to the happiness, but also how does it feel in my heart, my gut? Like, what is it telling me? Pursue that more. That is what will get you to the true place of loving what you do, being healthy, being happy, and doing it for a long time.
That's pretty awesome. All right, so your podcast is already live on Live Beyond the Norms, on the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. So if you're tuning in, make sure you subscribe to that so you can get access to Caspar's and future podcasts. You have a podcast. I put your link, I put Caspar Schultz link above. Is that where the easiest way for them to find your podcast?
Yeah, sure. Your Health, Your Story is the podcast if you want to look it up. But yeah, it should all be there in the link. Or yeah, you could always DM me if you want more information on anything, the center, treatments. I love just sharing information with people and allowing them to make their decisions, again, with their heart and their intuition.
All right, I'm going to post. I found that on Apple, on iTunes. If you can at least use that link to get the title and then find it on whatever podcast software you use. Well, this has been awesome. We'll actually do that. I think you're going to interview me.
Yes.
Actually, I need to get that scheduled. I'm excited about that. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing some great information. Keep doing what you're doing. I really have this kind of welling that it's changing the foundation of medicine. You Maverick, you.
Well, I appreciate, Chris. Always love talking shop with you, and keep doing what you're doing as well, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye.